Hey everybody, it's Skully. I'm back again so soon. So I had debated making a video like this for quite some time because when I start to get really revved up like this and I start talking really fast and nobody can keep up with me or anything, I tend to get really self-conscious about it. So I wanted to make a video talking about pressured speech. As I've mentioned in previous videos before, pressured speech is a part of bipolar disorder, usually in the manic stages when you tend to not only do you kind of get the one topic from the next with kind of the flight of ideas, the pressured speech usually kind of goes with it and you're talking a million miles a minute and then people can't keep up and they tell you talk too fast. It's really overwhelming for most people. This is a symptom I've been dealing with for a very long time, so at this point I'm pretty used to it, and I talk pretty fast without even realizing it until I hear myself gasping for breath because I am just keep going and going and going, and I don't even really give a second thought about it, and then of course I have the people looking at me sideways because they think there's something wrong with me, or I'm on something, and it's just really awkward to try to have to explain it to people. But what better way to get information like this out there if you talk about it and get it out in the open, right? But yeah, as you could imagine, this is something that interferes with quite a lot of things, or at least you can, and in my case it has. It can make things like work especially very important, not only because it's hard for people to keep up, but then if it starts driving people crazy, they're not exactly going to keep that to themselves, they're going to tell other people about it, especially you, and if not you, somebody else will tell, maybe somebody you work with, or your supervisor, who will then kind of pull you aside and be like, hey, Scully, what's your deal? Hey, just kind of take that down a notch, please. And I'm like, okay, sure. Well, when it's so automatic, as it is for me, like I said, since I've dealt with it for so long, I'm right back to where I started, like 0.5 seconds later, because like I said, it's so automatic. So when you have an issue or symptom such as this that causes issues in your day-to-day life, what do you do exactly to try to make it better? Well, a lot of it is kind of having a sense of self-awareness, really kind of looking at yourself kind of with that mirror perspective I kind of talk to people about sometimes. You really have to kind of point that mirror at yourself and realize that even though it may sound normal to you, and a lot of times for me it did, you have to really, really listen from an outsider's perspective and think, oh, okay, well, this may sound normal to me, but when I hear other people talk, they speak and think much more slowly than I do. So, the kind of figuring it out on your own and kind of really kind of monitoring yourself and maybe even asking for others' input really can be difficult, not only because their feedback may be a little bit more with criticism more than giving you pointers, but it can really take a long time to really notice patterns in your behavior and your speech and see what works and what doesn't. And sometimes you have to make a lot of mistakes before you finally make progress. And, well, let's face it, that's not fun, right? And I think a lot of it is also just like in my case, I tend to feel really good when I'm talking this fast. And like when I talk to people, sometimes I'm really shy, but I do like, for the most part, talking to people. So when I talk to people, I get really into what I'm talking about. And then I talk even faster because I'm excited and I'm happy. And again, this is normal for me, but for somebody else, they're like, wow, why is she getting so worked up, or why is she talking so fast? Like, she must really like that topic, or she must be really excited, or she must have a lot of energy. Did she have like 10 Red Bulls today or something? So yeah, just about every kind of little thing like that I probably heard at least once. Or, hey, she talks like an auctioneer. Like, how does she do that? Well, to some people it was actually pretty fascinating. They thought, oh wow, she's got quite a talent for that. Maybe she should make that pretty useful. But even in a complimentary kind of way, it still became really repetitive and annoying after a while to have to kind of explain it to one person after the next, assuming they would even understand it in the first place. And it just got so frustrating, and it got to a point many times where I was convinced I just didn't even want to speak for the rest of my life. I just wanted to write in text. I just wanted to write things down on a piece of paper, text people, just something that didn't involve me using my voice and having people notice that about me, and again, having to explain why I talk that fast, and no, I'm not on drugs, and no, I didn't have 10 Red Bulls before I came to work this morning, this is just how I talk sometimes, and this is normal for me. Some people, especially like in my case everybody's treatment for various mental illnesses is kind of different. But every time somebody was like, oh, she must be on something, I wanted so badly to just turn around and be like, no, I have to actually take medication to try to be normal, so, thanks for your input on that, dude. And it just got so frustrating after a while, and then any kind of negative emotion especially, because, of course, I mentioned I talk faster when I'm happy and excited, but then, of course, when I get angry or frustrated, not only does it get faster also, but it gets a lot more, like, overwhelming in terms of, like, I start talking louder, I've talked over people many times, I've interrupted people, and with the speech, I mean, I've been going on for like 5 minutes now. I've barely stopped at all to speak or anything, and then of course, if you ever hear me stuttering a couple times, it's the other kind of negative side to it, is that everything, all of this just kind of adds up after a while. So yeah, really wanted to do a video about something like this for quite a while, and I just really wasn't sure how to do it, because I knew I was going to watch this later, and I was going to want to put a paper sack over my head and just hide away in a corner from embarrassment from posting something like this. But I also wanted something that was real. I wanted something that maybe would help somebody else. If anybody else is dealing with something like this, that maybe they would watch this and know that they're not alone, and that sometimes, especially with things like mental illness, when you want to know the real, raw parts of it, sometimes you got to be brave enough to show people what the raw parts of mental illness look like, and they're not always pretty. So not everything's all peaches and cream when you're trying to look for some sort of treatment for something like anxiety or depression or anything like that. So if this video is very overwhelming for a lot of people, I apologize, and I know my speech is probably darn near impossible to keep up with, because I'm speaking probably 300 miles an hour, and assuming that the normal person doesn't even speak 100 miles per hour. They say that how fast you speak is probably a fraction of how much your brain works. So if I'm speaking like the 300 miles an hour, then how fast is my brain working to try to overcompensate for this much speech? And again, being winded at the end and feeling like my voice doesn't really hurt afterward, but it does kind of feel like it's been overworked and overused. And it's kind of like a car that once you get it going, it's harder to stop it unless you have some sort of outside force to kind of hit those brakes for you. So, and plus, with just me being in the mood I am in right now, I feel pretty good for a change. I figured it would be best for me to film a video like this, where normally I'm a pretty nervous person, I worry a lot. A lot of things get to me that probably shouldn't, but then I figured in a video like this, I'm like, hey, let's make this video and I don't really care so much because I feel too good to care, or I care less, or it feels like I don't care. I know deep down I do care. I don't want to, again, I don't want to psych people out with a video like this, but like I said, I want to be straightforward and honest about things like this, because there is too much stigma about things like this, and unfortunately it is what it is, and the best way to go about it is to really get some clarity about maybe misinformation that's out in the world, or, you know, common misconceptions that people get about certain symptoms, certain behaviors, certain diseases, because in the long run, that is what will educate people, that's what will clear some of the misinformation, and that will give the clarity that people need to heal, to move forward, and to cope and live a great life with something like mental illness. So for those of you that watch my channel up to this point, thank you very much. It's been rough getting things going with this channel. I'm still pretty new to all of this. So for people that have stuck by me through this, thank you very much, and your views and your support is very much appreciated. I really hope that on this channel I can give some clarity to people that are struggling, because it's something I've thought of quite a lot, especially when I first got diagnosed, and I really wanted to try to help people. So I hope that in some way I am. And if you managed to keep up to this point, and again, especially thank you, and I hope you'll continue to watch my videos after this, even if this one is quite different than the other ones. Just thank you so much for your time. People have no idea how much even just time can mean to somebody like me, because it means that people care. And in a world like this, having people care is a very important thing. So until next time, have a great day.